Welcome, beloved children of God. Have you ever paused amidst the rush of life and felt as if an unseen hand was gently guiding you? Sometimes, in the stillness, when your soul quiets amidst life's turmoil, a soft whisper echoes in your mind, reminding you that you are not alone, that you are being led, and that you have a divine purpose in this world. From the earliest days of your life, you may have experienced moments of wonder, subtle yet undeniable signs that you were chosen to walk a unique path. These experiences are not coincidences. They are pieces of the grand tapestry that God has woven for your life. He has always been there, gently preparing you for something greater, more beautiful, and more sacred than you could have ever imagined. Today, we will explore 7 signs from childhood that may reveal the divine calling God has placed in your heart. These signs are not fleeting moments, but illuminating beacons along your journey. As you look back, you may realize that even in your earliest years, God was quietly planting seeds of faith, compassion, resilience, and a profound intuition within you. Have you ever felt an unexplainable urge, a deep calling within you to seek truth, stand for justice, or pursue something greater than yourself? Perhaps you have always felt a little different, drawn to deeper questions about life, or carried a strong sense that you were meant for something beyond the ordinary paths others follow. This is no coincidence. It is a sign that God has placed a divine purpose within you, a mission that only you can fulfill. At times, this journey may feel lonely. You may have felt like a stranger in this world, seeing things from a different perspective, feeling the weight of pains that others seem to overlook. But remember this: your uniqueness is not a burden, it is a gift. God did not create you to blend in. He created you to shine, to be a light in the darkness, to bring His presence to the places that need it most. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a future and a hope. Jeremiah 29:11. Let these words be an encouragement to your soul. God never lets you wander aimlessly. The moments when you feel most challenged may be the very moments He is shaping you to be stronger, sharper, and more steadfast in your faith. You are not here by accident. You are not walking this journey alone. God is walking beside you, guiding you with every step, even when you do not realize it. As you learn to listen and trust in His guidance, you will see doors open, paths illuminate, and your heart fill with a peace that the world cannot take away. Open your heart and let us walk through these divine signs together. Do not fear stepping into the calling God has for you, for He has already equipped you with everything you need to fulfill your mission. If this message resonates with you, share a comment about the sign you have recognized in your own life. You are loved, you are chosen, you are being led. Trust that God is working in your life at this very moment. If you feel this calling in your heart, follow this channel as we seek wisdom, healing, and divine guidance together on this journey of faith. You are never alone. God is always with you. Have you ever felt that you perceive the world in a profoundly different way? Perhaps just a glance allows you to recognize hidden sorrow in someone's eyes. Maybe a melody touches your soul in a way that no one else seems to feel. Or perhaps you have always been drawn to the small yet deeply meaningful things. A wildflower growing through the cracks of stone, a gentle breeze carrying the warmth of memory, or a sunset that feels like a love letter from God to the world. If you have ever felt this, know that it is not a coincidence. You are not overly sensitive. You are an awakened soul, a heart designed to feel deeply, to love profoundly, and to see what the world often overlooks. This sensitivity is not a burden, but a divine gift that God has placed within you. He has woven an invisible thread into your being, connecting you to the most delicate details of life, so that you can bring light, love, and healing to others. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted, and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Psalm 34:18. Have you noticed that your understanding of others' pain often goes beyond words? How many times have you been the only one to recognize that someone was silently struggling? How often has your heart carried the weight of a sorrow that wasn't yours? Yet, you felt it as if it were your own. These are not coincidences. They are signs that you were created for a higher purpose, to be a beacon of light, a source of comfort, and a vessel of God's love in this world. Remember, this is not a coincidence. From the very beginning, God has shaped your heart to reflect His own, a heart ablaze with compassion, unconditional love, and a deep longing to heal the wounds of the world. You were born to see what others do not, You were born to feel what the world so easily overlooks, and above all, you were born to bring light into the darkest places. Perhaps along this journey you have felt lost. Perhaps you have thought of yourself as too sensitive, too vulnerable. But remember, what the world considers weakness is precisely what God uses to reveal His strength. Many souls who carry this gift also feel drawn to stillness. In that silence, they not only find peace, but also hear the whispers of the eternal. When the noise of the world fades, when nothing else fills your mind, that is when God plants the seeds of wisdom and understanding within you. Embrace this gift as a sacred part of yourself. Let your heart guide you toward what is true, toward those who need your love and understanding, and most importantly, know that you are not alone. God has placed a unique light within you, and that very light will illuminate your path, leading you to the purpose He has ordained for you. Let your sensitivity become your strength. Let your heart continue to love, to feel, to heal, for in doing so, you are fulfilling a divine mission that God has placed within you. Have you ever had moments when understanding suddenly flooded your mind as if an invisible door had been opened, revealing something that did not come from yourself? That is divine intuition, the gentle call from God, inviting you to listen more deeply, to connect more closely with His guidance. It is a special gift, an invisible thread linking you to a higher truth, to the greater plans He has prepared for your life. Yet perhaps there are times when you feel lost within this gift. You see what others do not. You feel what the world seems indifferent to. And sometimes this can leave you feeling alone, when others cannot understand or even reject what you so clearly perceive. But take heart, for this very sense of being different is a sign that you have been set apart for a divine purpose. For we are His workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. Ephesians 2:10. Have you ever wondered why your heart is so easily moved by the pain of others, or why you rejoice as if it were your own victory when someone finds light in their life? Perhaps you deeply feel the wounds of this world, the unspoken words, the forgotten sorrows. This connection is not by chance. It is part of the divine plan that God has etched into your soul. He has placed within you a vast heart, not just to see, but to act, to love boldly and sincerely, even when no one else notices or responds to that love. Perhaps on this journey you have felt the weight of deep empathy, but remember, this gift comes with a divine assurance. You are not alone in your sensitivity. You are not alone in your longing for justice. In your compassion, you are not alone on this journey. Every tear you shed, every embrace you offer, every prayer you whisper for those who suffer, carries significance in the kingdom of God. He sees, He knows, and He is using your heart as a powerful vessel to bring His light into the darkest places. Let this encourage you to embrace the depth of your heart rather than trying to hide or suppress it. This world needs the love, the healing, and the compassion you carry. When you walk in the gift God has given you, you are not merely existing, you are fulfilling a divine mission. Perhaps at this very moment you feel the stirring of something greater, a gentle yet undeniable calling, a divine invitation to step into the purpose God has placed within you since the beginning of time. Listen, trust, walk in His guidance, for you are not just an observer. You are being prepared for something greater. Beloved ones in faith, have you ever felt like a stranger in this world? Perhaps from a young age you have stood among familiar faces yet carried an unshakable sense that you were different, not because you sought to be separate, but because something within you has always been drawn toward a world beyond, toward something greater than words can express. This feeling, though sometimes confusing, is not meaningless. It is not a sign of isolation or being lost. It is a reminder from God that He has set you apart for something greater, for a purpose that does not conform to the patterns of this world. You are not here merely to blend in, but to shine, to be transformed into His image. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Romans 12:2. From a young age you may have noticed that while others easily blend into the crowd, you are drawn to deeper questions and hidden truths. You see the world not just with your eyes, but with the sensitive heart that God has placed within you. Perhaps you have wondered, why can't I accept shallow things the way others do? Why do I always feel like something greater is waiting for me? Why do I always feel like I belong somewhere else, somewhere more sacred, more profound? These questions are not random. They are signs that your heart is not meant for this world, but for heaven. For here we do not have an enduring city, but we are looking for the city that is to come. Hebrews 13:14. You were not created to belong to this world, but to be transformed by His power. He has placed within you a deep longing for truth, for justice, and for His presence. Reflect on how this feeling of not belonging has shaped your decisions. Have you ever avoided choices that seemed right for others but didn't feel right for you? This is not rebellion. This is not eccentricity. This is holy distinction. God has placed a divine sensitivity within you to guide you along the higher path He has set for your life. You were not created to follow the crowd, but to be a light in the darkness, bringing His truth and love to places others may never dare to go. You are not just an observer, you are a bearer of light. Even in moments of loneliness, there is beauty in being set apart. Imagine a seed buried beneath the soil, hidden yet full of potential. Its time in the darkness is not wasted, it is essential for growth. Likewise, the moments when you feel lost are not meaningless, they are preparing you for a calling that will one day bloom into its fullness. Think back to times when you felt a deep connection to something beyond this world, a sunset that seemed to speak to your soul, a gentle breeze that touched your skin but awakened something in your heart, a quiet moment when you sensed the presence of God. These moments are not coincidences. They are signs, whispers from God reminding you, you are not of this world. You belong to me. You are not alone. You are not abandoned. You are not lost. You are called. Perhaps you are asking, what should I do with this feeling? How can I know God's will for my life? Can I truly walk in His calling? Embrace your uniqueness as a sacred gift. Seek God's presence daily, in silence and in prayer. Walk in faith even when you cannot see the full picture. The moments of feeling lost are moments of preparation. He is refining you, strengthening your faith, so that you can stand firm in the calling He has placed upon your life. Remember, you are not merely existing, you are being prepared. You are not just a passerby, you are chosen. You are not just searching for purpose, you are part of God's divine plan. You are the light of the world. If this message resonates with you, share your thoughts in the comments. Leave a sign that you are ready to step into your mission, because God has called you by name and you have been chosen. You are not alone. God is always with you. Have you ever felt a gentle voice rising within your soul, guiding you down a path that reason cannot explain? A deep understanding that does not come from logic or experience, but seems to flow from an unseen hand gently leading you? That is divine intuition, the gift that God has placed within you to direct your steps. While the world demands reasons and evidence, those chosen by God learn to walk by faith, trusting His call without needing to justify every action. Have you noticed that your intuitive feelings often align with biblical principles, as if God is speaking through you, confirming that He is leading you into a higher plan? There is a quiet yet powerful strength in following this inner compass. There is an indescribable peace when you walk in obedience to this calling. There is a certainty that you are not lost. You are being prepared for something far greater. For the Lord loves justice and does not forsake His faithful ones. Psalm 37:28. Have you ever faced a decision that logic could not answer, yet your heart felt at peace because you knew God was guiding you? In those moments, you were not relying on your own understanding, but surrendering to Him, walking by faith and not by sight. As you embrace this gift, you will experience a deepening awareness that the journey of your life is not something you control on your own. This intuition is not just a fleeting emotion, it is a divine thread connecting you to God's plan. It leads you to a greater faith, to steadiness in His presence, and to an invitation to lean more fully into Him. Do you feel as though you are being prepared for something greater, something waiting for you just beyond the horizon? Perhaps this is not just a distant dream. Perhaps God is stirring within you a divine mission that only you can fulfill. Have you ever felt an overwhelming urge to stand up for what is right, even when it cost you something? From a young age, you may have instinctively recognized injustice, unable to turn away when someone was treated cruelly, unable to stay silent when the truth was distorted, unable to accept wrongdoing just because it was widely accepted. You are not just someone with a heart for justice. You are a warrior for righteousness. This steadfastness is not merely a personality trait. It is a reflection of God's nature within you. He has engraved upon your heart a deep hunger for righteousness, for justice, and for His divine love for the world. You cannot pretend not to care. You cannot remain still in the face of suffering. You cannot accept what is wrong just because it is common. This is a sign that you are called to be a bearer of God's justice. He has shown you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Micah 6:8. You may feel challenged, misunderstood, or even isolated because of your heart's deep passion for justice and compassion. But remember, everyone whom God has chosen has felt different. Everyone whom God has called has faced opposition. Everyone whom God has prepared has gone through trials. If you feel like this world does not quite fit you, perhaps it is because you were made for a higher world. If your heart constantly longs for something greater, perhaps it is because God has placed a sacred fire within you. You are not being left behind, you are being led forward. You are not off course. You are walking the very path that God has set before you. As you walk this path, let your divine intuition be the light that guides you. Let the longing for justice in your heart be the driving force for your actions. Let your trust in God be the firm foundation for every decision you make. You are not alone in this journey. You do not need to fear the future, for God has gone before you. You do not need to justify the gift He has given you. Trust, listen, walk. If this message stirs something within your heart, take a moment to pause. Breathe deeply and ask God, Lord, where are you calling me? What do you want me to do with this gift? And listen, because He will answer. You are chosen, you are loved, you are guided. Walk in the light of God. For the path He has set before you always leads to something greater. Have you ever felt an unexplainable longing in your heart? A calling that urges you to rise and defend truth and justice, even when it is not easy? Have you noticed that even as a child you could not stand still when you saw injustice? That you could not turn away when someone was mistreated? That you could not stay silent when the truth was distorted? That passion within you is not a coincidence. It is a divine gift that God has placed in you, a spark from His heart so that you may bring light into the darkest places of the world. The Lord works righteousness and justice for all the oppressed. Psalm 103:6. But pursuing justice is not an easy path. Have you ever felt lonely when standing up for what is right? Have you ever felt like the only one who sees injustice while those around you remain indifferent? Know that you are not alone. God has called you not to blend in but to stand out, not to follow the crowd but to walk in His guidance. The strong sense of justice within you is not a mere impulse or fleeting reaction. It is part of the divine plan that God has ordained from the beginning. He has woven you with a heart that is sensitive to truth and a soul that cannot tolerate wrongdoing. Yet, those who carry the fire of justice often walk a lonely road. When you stand against injustice, you may face opposition, ridicule, or even isolation. This world does not always welcome truth easily, but that does not mean you are wrong. Remember, Christ walked this road before you. He challenged the norms of the world, spoke up for the poor, the oppressed, and the abandoned, and He endured it all so that truth could be revealed. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 5:10. You are not the first, nor will you be the last to walk this path. Every warrior for justice in history has faced trials, but it is through those trials that they became stronger, more steadfast, and equipped by God to fulfill their mission. Your desire to see justice and truth prevail is good, but remember that God is not only a God of justice, He is also a God of mercy. Have you ever noticed that even when you have every reason to be angry at injustice, compassion has the power to soften that anger? True justice is not merely about punishing the wrongdoer. It is also about bringing restoration to the wounded. Perhaps God is not only calling you to fight for justice, but also to be a bringer of healing. Mercy and truth have met together. Righteousness and peace have kissed. Psalm 85:10. There will be moments when you must speak boldly, but there will also be moments when God calls you to be gentle, to transform hearts with kindness rather than arguments. Listen for His guidance in every situation. Have you ever felt that when the world hesitates, you are compelled to keep moving forward? That when others compromise, an inner strength within you refuses to let you back down? That is God's equipping. He has not only placed in you a hunger for justice, but has also given you the strength to fight, the patience to wait, and the faith to endure. When you face challenges, when you feel weary, remember that you are not fighting alone. God is walking with you, upholding you, and working through you. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Isaiah 40:31. As you reflect on this calling, consider whether your deep sense of justice is the foundation of your life's purpose. Has it shaped every decision you've made? Has it guided you in your most defining moments? Has it driven you to rise up even when everything seemed against you? This is not a coincidence. God has been equipping you long before you were born. He knows exactly where your light is needed, and He has placed you there with divine purpose. You do not need to understand everything right now. You do not need to see the entire path ahead, but trust that God has a plan for you, and it is far greater than anything you can imagine. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. Even if you feel challenged, even if you feel alone on this path, remember that you are not abandoned. There is a greater purpose awaiting you. There is a glorious journey that God has set before you. Let the fire within you continue to burn brightly. Let justice within you be intertwined with mercy. Let the truth you pursue be the light that shines upon the world. God has chosen you, He has called you by name, and He will always walk with you. Step forward in faith, for you are not merely an observer, you are called to bring change. Peter had always been different. From a young age he carried a deep sense of justice, a fire burning within him, compelling him to act whenever he witnessed wrongdoing. While other children chose to turn away when a classmate was bullied, Peter stepped in to defend them. When someone was falsely accused, he was the first to seek the truth, even when it meant getting himself into trouble. But as he grew older, Peter realized that the world did not easily accept people like him. During his time in college, he uncovered a case of minor corruption within the school. Some professors were abusing their authority to favor students from privileged backgrounds, while others were unfairly judged. Peter could not stay silent. He gathered evidence, wrote a detailed article, and submitted it to the school board. But instead of receiving support, he was ignored. His friends warned him that he was creating trouble for himself. Some even distanced themselves from him out of fear of being associated. Alone, confused, and at times doubting himself, Peter turned to God in prayer. Lord, I only want to do what is right, but why is this so difficult? Why do I feel like I'm fighting this battle alone? In the stillness, a verse echoed in his heart. The Lord works righteousness and justice for all the oppressed. Psalm 103:6. Peter realized that God had placed this fire within him not to be extinguished, but to shine in the darkness. If God had called him to walk this path, then he would walk with him. With renewed faith, Peter continued his investigation and remained steadfast in his pursuit of truth. He reached out to students who had been treated unfairly, helped them gather evidence, and together they presented their case to the school board. Finally, the truth came to light. Some corrupt professors were disciplined and the grading system was revised to ensure fairness. But the most memorable part was not the victory, it was the lesson Peter learned along the way. He came to understand that justice was not just about punishing the wrongdoers, but about restoring what had been lost. While some teachers were reprimanded, Peter also saw how mercy could transform people. One of the professors later approached him, admitting their mistakes and committing to change. For the first time, Peter understood that God's justice is not only about judgment, it is also about healing. He no longer felt alone because he knew he was walking in the divine plan that God had set before him. Peter's journey was far from over, and perhaps his story reflects something within you as well. Maybe you too feel alone in your pursuit of truth. Maybe you too have questioned whether you can truly make a difference. But remember, justice does not begin with the crowd, it begins with one person. Remember, when you dare to stand up, you create a ripple effect far greater than you may ever realize. Remember, you do not walk alone. God is walking with you. The world may not always understand you, but God does. And if He has placed this fire within you, trust that He has a greater plan for your life. So what will you do with the mission God has placed in your heart? Step forward in faith, for you are not merely an observer, you are called to bring change.